Nanawimagan. Ani ni Nanawimagan. Hello, my relations. I'm Midegah Ogichi Da'an Indigo Ojibwe Mung. I'm the kind warrior man of the Ojibwe people. And I want to welcome you to this question and answer. I want to recognize my ancestors who have given us the history and knowledge to be here and recognize the sacred bundle that I carry and the sacred Blackstone pipe that's 400 years old and the gifts of my ancestors to ensure that I could stand here and remember them with my sacred great tooth. And I want to share a song with you that says that I'm flying over the waters, and I'm doing that at the end of this month. I'm flying back to Ontario to meet with the Midu elders as we talk about these things. And it says, I'm looking over the creation. We should all be looking over creation. And I'm searching for the spirit men. I'm flying over the waters and I'm searching creation because I'm traveling with the Great Spirit. We should all be traveling with the Creator because I want to be a part of healing the spirit people. And I certainly hope that we remember that we are Anishinaabe, all of us. We are spirits lowered to this earth. We are Ojichagwan. You are a spirit in a body, and you know you are. And you're Ojibwe just like me. You're recording a vision with the Creator. And so I hope as I fly in just a couple weeks, that I start finding more people who are of the Spirit, more people of the Spirit. Ogi di big Papa Mashan, Papa Wadan Damanaki, Mikana Kungu Ichi wa Undo Newu Kanashinabe. Hey ya, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, hey ya, ho. Ogi di big Papa Mashan. Papa waban damanaki. Manadungu ichi wa nananda wiatanashinabe. Manatu ape. Manatu ape. Manatu ape peshit kewe anashinabe. Hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, ho. The Niswi Mishkore went on. The Three Fires people, we're still here. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Let me welcome everybody in. I am so excited to have Chief David Midegah with us. Welcome in all of you that are joining us live. I think we're going to have close to a few hundred people live today. And I wanted to thank Chief David Midegah for setting the tone for this live. Music has a unique way of bringing in the spirit. So thank you for that. I also want to introduce a couple of other people that are here on the live. Obviously, my co-host, Trevor Keys, and David the Lion Douglas. We also have Sherry Cardinal, or you can call her Chief Grandmother. She's joining us as well. And as you have questions, if you have questions for her, feel free to send them over to her. And we've got Jody Taylor. Jody Taylor organizes Chief David Midegah's schedule and kind of is there to help and do everything. And honestly, we couldn't do what we do, getting him scheduled and booked and on all of the shows where you enjoy him without Jody Taylor. So thank you for that. So I'm going to turn it over to Trevor because he's going to be the one that's going to be fielding the questions and going through the questions. But before I do that, we want to set kind of the tone of how this is going to go. We have had nearly 70 people fill out on our contact forms questions. We're going to start with those questions. We're going to read off your name and we're going to start with those questions. Now, if you want your question to get answered as quickly as possible, then use the super chat button. And let me tell you what we're going to be doing with that super chat. It's all going to David Douglas. If you don't know this, he's got a wife and 5 kids. He's been out of work for about 3 or 4 months. The only work that he's doing is the work for our YouTube channel. Now, what's really cool about our YouTube channel, and I just noticed this, our YouTube channel has made $500. We haven't even had it up for 40 days. And so he is earning a little bit of money there. But any of the money that we earn from the YouTube channel does go to David Douglas and his family, because we're hoping that he can turn this into a job. He does all of our editing and posts all the content, and he's like a thumbnail warrior. I mean, this guy is going through thumbnails like you wouldn't believe, and making everything look pretty for our channel. So with that, I'll turn it over to Trevor Keys.
All right, and yeah, I want to promote a little for Dave as well. If you guys go in there, do a super chat. Doesn't matter what level, 100% of your proceeds are going to David. This is better than the Red Cross. This is better than the United Nations. We're not taking anything out of it. It's all going to David. So, okay. So what we're going to do is we've got all the questions. We're going to flash them up on the screen like this. Okay. We're going to read the question. And then Chief Midegah is going to go through, answer it. We may have some follow-up, some comments afterwards, and then we'll go to the next. And like Shane said, if you want to jump the line, you can immediately jump the line by doing a super chat, even the tiniest one. And that'll be the next one that we pop in. We're going for an hour and a half with questions. Okay. We have so many questions there. Like Shane said, 70 some odd people did it, but some people put like 5 questions. We have like 284 questions. We're not going to get to all of them. So if you want to make sure that yours got on there, go get that super chat. All right. So there we go. Got Chief Midegah over here. We're going to pop our very first question, and this is it. From Lisa, what do the Native Americans know about Zion? What will it be like according to their traditions? What does Christ's coming look like to their record? So 3 questions there, but the very first one is, what do Native Americans know about Zion?
That this is a part of our core spiritual tradition. About 7 generations after the great peacemaker left, and we know a generation it's under natural law. We're not talking modern laws that people do to give children more time to be children, which I think is fantastic. But you have to understand a generation so you can understand the time period as I talk about this, that we know that we look at everything as synchronized. We are in the greatest classroom that could ever be created, in the greatest house that ever could be created. And so we know that children reach the age of puberty about 14, 15, and about 28, 29, then you would have, and under natural law, which was the case before the 1800s, you were having a child pretty close to that in your mid-teens. And then by the time you hit 28, 29, your teen was hitting puberty. And so second generation popped up. So we based a generation off of the moon cycle. And so about 7 of these generations, or 210 years after the great peacemaker left, we had quite a bit of issues occurring. And we had 8 prophets that appeared along the eastern coast of North America. And they came to us to tell us the future. And they told us about 7 periods of time that would come. And to be aware of these periods of time so that when you're in those periods, you knew when to hold them and hide, or when to profess and speak, or when to prepare for the sun rising. And so we were very aware of what you would call the term Zion, which is, I would call, a restoration of all things. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. But we knew that this would be the transition from the 7th to 8th age. We're not any different than the rabbis. We're not any different than the Jews, and Jesus was a Jew. And they're waiting for the 8th age as well. And so we were very aware of this and this period of time coming. It's a time of peace, global kindness, and where everybody's truth would sustain the same message. And that's that there's one creator. There's one creator. And that we have a purpose here on this earth. Now we know that the great peacemaker's coming back. His job is to prepare us with his teachings to be able to create the environment as willful participants in this great journey, so that his Father, the creator of all things, could enter into this house and dwell with us. That's the period we're waiting for. We know the creator will actually come into this place and be with us. Now we know the creator is something significant. Everything is being sustained moment to moment, even your every atom in your body and your spirit and everything around you, even this big tooth here that I got, that it's being sustained moment to moment by the Creator, the source of all things. But he wants to come in this house, and he wants to dwell with us. So it'll be a period of peace and kindness where all the brothers of humanity sit in a circle together as equals. And that what will be guiding us is our heart. And we call this Midday We Win, the path of the heart of the Creator. And the great peacemaker taught us that heart. So we're trying to get to that place. It'll be an age where, and I'll just close with this, it'll be an age where people are treated as the mother treats her child. And the mother stands by her child who has even committed the worst of crimes, as if with the love as if they were innocent. Now our Creator and the great peacemaker, they're one click beyond that, which is almost impossible to imagine. So it'll be a period of absolute love, absolute kindness, absolute respect, and absolute forgiveness.
Awesome. Trevor, next.
Okay. Let me jump over. Whoops. This is also
somebody did ask while he's looking for a question. One of the questions in the feed that I see is that a human tooth, or what is that tooth, and where's that tooth from?
So my grandmother, she's an interesting lady. She was, you know, one of the things that I want to tell you about this tooth, but I hope it's not too bright. Is it too bright?
Might can you tone down the light a little bit? No.
Well, I don't know about that. I can turn it a little bit. So my grandmother was a professing sinner. She was taken as a young child to northern Idaho, and it took 10 years for her mother to find her. And when she reconnected with her family, which was her birthright, there were things that they gave her. Now, she had a great love of the Savior. She must have had like 40 images. My Uncle Dave and Rick know, and her walls were covered with about 40 pictures of Jesus. Okay. But one thing she didn't forget were the things that were sacred to us, which is something like this. When she gave this to me, it's a large tooth. Okay. I don't know what it's from, but I would venture to say the mouth of whatever this was in was pretty big. But what she wanted me to remember when I feel pressure and you feel stress and you feel like the whole world is coming down on you, that you are your ancestors' prayers made flesh. They were carrying this great tooth to remember that they had overcome great things for you to be walking here today. And so you just hold that tooth and remember, no one else has one like it. No one else does. But it's a sign and a symbol that your ancestors are with you and that you can overcome great things. I don't know what this is from. Now, the rabbis in Israel, they have their own ideas. They're like, oh, it's proof of giants. Well, it is a giant. It's from a giant. I don't know if it's from a giant human or a giant animal, but it certainly, it used to have a second stem on the side that somehow in the past it broke off. But that's okay. But,
Cool.
you know, this is the closest thing we have to saying that we've been here long enough to be able to talk about our history. Talk about our history. And we overcame great things. And this is sacred to me, and I'm holding it to remember that there's nothing too great to overcome, not even a giant. And you know that in your
Cool.
Torah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Trevor, we
Okay.
got some super chats.
We got super chats. The largest that we've ever got from Mason Webb. What up, Mason? You're now our favorite.
Thank you, Mason.
Okay, here it is. Does the Christmas star, when the planets aligned December 21st, 2020, have any special meaning? And is there any relationship with that date and your son, David? Interesting. So, hey, Mason, I want you to send us a message on our contact us form and tell us what you think it means. If you got any links, drop that for us.
Well, I can tell you that, you know, we know that there are the changing of the seasons. There are important ceremonies that are involved here. That there's a period of time that the sun is the highest in the sky. And this is a grandfather. This is we know this is a living thing. That we also know that there's a period of time that the moon is the highest in the sky, but the moon's significant. The moon has no light of its own. It's teaching us in the dark that it reflects the light of the sun. It's symbolic. It's reminding us that even in the darkest hour, the light of the Creator is reflected into our lives. Now, it's a significant period of time for us. It's a period of transition. We know when this period of time comes that in a world of darkness and cold, where it seems as if it's impossible for life to begin, that the great promise from the Creator that all things can be made anew is starting already, even if you can't see it. And so we know that the next step after this is coming the spring, the renewal of all things. And so this is such a significant period of year that even this year, every year on December 21st at the solstice, that there's a really massive ceremony down in Mexico City at a place called Polonca, great big pyramids. And we're actually going to be down there this year. They've been going down every year, but this year is a big year because this year we signed some proclamations because we know that this is a year of a transition. It's a remembrance. It's a remembrance that before the Father comes, the Son comes. Before the great sun in the sky comes, the moon comes. And they each have their responsibility. They each have their responsibility. So yes, it's a significant period of the year, especially this year, because we know this year is a transition phase.
Awesome. Trevor, next super chat from me, or do you got something else?
Oh, next super chat. Okay. Do you have it?
Yeah, the next super chat is this, and I don't know if we can post on the screen, but
Okay,
and I wish I knew who this was from because it just says from me. So whoever me is, thank you for the super chat. It says what? Oh, there it is, right there. Go ahead, Trevor. What is the process one goes through to be born again? Born of God or born of the Spirit, according to Indigenous teachings?
Ooh, I like that one.
So we know that when we were first made on this earth, that there was a plan. That when you were born, you were actually formed in your mother's womb. And this was a sacred water where the spirit and the body were combined. And that when you were born into this earth, it was a spirit being baptized into this earth. And there were supposed to be people there that said, this is who you are. This is where you're at. This is what you have to do. And we're here to help and support you. Now, along the way, that got broken. And so then people are being born into a world of people who are broken themselves with scars upon their heart. And so the Creator who loves us, he gave us the opportunity to find our way back. Now, for us, we also call that, you would call it baptism, where you can't just climb back in your mom's womb. You got big, okay? So they take you to the womb of the earth, which is you would go into the water and you'd come out of the water and it's as if being reborn. And then the people with you would grab you and say, this is who you are. This is where you're at. This is what's expected of you. And we're here to support you and help you. Now for us, that baptism is moving into the purification lodge. Before we could go into the teaching lodge where you would learn about the first mother and father, you are all held equally in regard by the Creator as the first mother and father. Doesn't matter if there's 7 billion of us. Each person, each woman and man has an intimate relationship. We would then go into that purification lodge where you back in as you're going into, and you pass through a curtain and you pass into the purification lodge. You call it a sweat lodge, but it's returning into the womb. And they would heat those stones up and pour that water on until the entire space is filled with so much water, about this far from the ground, breathing, and you are in water. And you understand the significance of breath, of your heartbeat, of the sound of the mother as that drum is beat to remind you of your first memory, of your mother's heartbeat. You're not alone. That heart is in your chest. I am my mother's great work of art. And then they would leave that purification lodge and it would be a chance to restart. Now you're able, you know who you are. Now you're able to go into the teaching lodge. You can't go into the teaching lodge until you're ready, until you're prepared. And you're not prepared until you've been born again, because humankind screwed it up. The mothers didn't screw it up. I'll own it. I'm a man. Males screwed it up and they broke it. So that's the importance of baptism. And we do the same thing, but we do it in a symbolic way of returning into the womb. And anybody who's been to a purification lodge knows it is magical to be completely encased in water, but still be breathing in humility about that far from the earth. And you understand how sacred this earth is as well. And then you come out and they look you in the eye. This is who you are. This is where you are. This is why you're here. And we're here to help and support you along the way. You're going to fall, but we're going to be there to lift you back up. We're never going to give up on you.
Awesome. Okay, Trevor, we got another super chat from Porter Compton. Throw it up there.
And this has a couple of questions in here, and Porter jumped to the line, dropped $20, so we're going to give it to him. I have a question I believe to be rather important, and a follow-up question after number one. So he's going to go in and drop another super chat after this if he likes the answer. Okay, number one, if you believe that the priesthood exists out of the church in the case of the Native American and Jew, then what about the fundamental Mormons who have been operating out of the church? Ooh, this is a good one. Who have been operating out of the church in difference with plural marriage. Okay, so basically he wants to know, do they have the priesthood? What's your...
Well, here's what we'll talk about. We know that the fourth law of Noah, after the flood, Noah, he's the father of us all. We know after the flood it was Nushah, the father. Don't let language confuse you. We tried to touch the creator too soon. We weren't ready. Change the language. We know that he gave us 7 laws we have to follow. And that fourth law, that declares that what one person has gained, earned, or been ordained is not another's to take away. We know that that's also the fourth grandfather teaching of the Anishinaabe, because we know we came over here after the flood as well. And that honesty, wisdom, respect, humility, honesty is that what another person has been ordained or earned or been given is not yours to take away. That's their property. We have some examples in the scripture. And this example is a guy who shares the same name as me. His name was David. God loved him a lot. But even in his day, the person that was ordained, that was given the authority, was a man named Saul, who was a righteous man for a long period of time. But then he's a man. He's a man. He's a human. And he's going to have frailties and failures. He never judged him for that. He said, the anointing was placed upon him. It's not my place to combat against it, to seek to remove it. I have to wait because it's his. It's on him. You don't have to like your leaders as human beings, but you certainly don't have the right to take what has been given or granted, earned or ordained upon them. Now, we know for us, and I have brothers that are rabbis, and they're my brothers after how long we've been working, that they were given a promise as well, and that Levitical priesthood given through Aaron has been carried generation to generation within the Jewish tribe. We also know that when the great peacemaker came to us, he reaffirmed what we had been brought by the people of the star about 2,500 years ago, when a really brilliant young man who had been taught by these elders went through all of our communities and built these lodges to teach us about this place that had been destroyed. And they ordained our people. And this was reaffirmed by the great peacemaker. And we know that even that none of the people that he gave that authority to, they didn't give it back. They've carried it generation to generation. It doesn't matter how dwindling in numbers. But what we know about what was given to the Latter-day Saints, which we are in the end times, and Joseph Smith was called with a sacred obligation that these people were to gather the Gentiles, and they were given a priesthood and authority to do such a thing and to graft them into Israel. Just because you don't agree with them, because when they're being men, or you don't agree with them because of your own opinion, doesn't mean that you have the opportunity to make something new. David gave us the example. I can't claim what he carries. I can only live my life and hope that the Creator grants upon me, right? That same promise. Maybe he won't. And did David fulfill his obligations even when it came upon him? No. And there were those who looked upon him and said, I can't believe this is the guy, right? So So I would say, in regards to the fundamentalists who have reached out to me in great degree, is the message of David and Saul. David and Saul. And it takes a lot of humility to be patient. A lot of humility to be patient, and also forgiving.
Okay.
Love it.
Awesome.
Okay. We're going to jump into this next super chat here from GW Poco. Hello, Chief. We appreciate you. What specific petroglyphs did you see at Anasazi Ridge, or however you say that, in St. George, that you found similar to what you already know?
Man, it was strange. I didn't even know, like, I was at, the plane tickets got changed to go down there. One of the things that I found was fascinating is when I went, by the way, to call it Anasazi Ridge is a great disrespect. The Anasazi were a specific group of people. I just want to clarify this for those that are there in St. George to know that you might want to change the name of that location. We know that the Azteca came in from the islands. They were the Maya from the islands in the Caribbean. And they said the great peacemaker came and talked to us. And the people on the mainland said they came and talked to us too. I have to get to the glyphs, but to get there, I have to explain the name. And they said, he said, you have to give your heart willfully to free your spirit. And they took it letter of the law. It's on black and white. It says it right here. Lay on the altar. I'm going to tear the heart out of your chest. And they were doing that. Right? Well, the Anasazi were an extreme group of them that migrated north. And they started taking, and they were so extreme, they built the first walls. The first walls were in North America, were not built, as North, Central, and South America, were not built to protect people from outside. They were built to trap people in systems as slaves. All of the nations of Turtle Island, North America, combined as one like multinational force of 7 language families, and they obliterated them. They killed every last living Anasazi, destroyed all of their walls, destroyed all of their artifacts. That place should not be called Anasazi Ridge. Now, when I went there, what I found was interesting is I walked up and there was a man-made ledge, and immediately I knew where I was at. This is where a purification lodge would have occurred, where somebody's being brought upon their journey on this earth, a spirit journey. If you go up a little higher, there's a stone that's set. It literally is a square stone, and upon that would have been offerings made. And then there's a little entrance that goes down through a tunnel right in front of it. And before you go in, there's markings. There's a marking of a man, and there's a marking, and these are all Ojibwe scroll. These are scroll images from the Great Lakes, because the great peacemaker taught the same thing through all of North America. And there's this image of the spirit. There's the image of the man, that they're different. Who you are in your body are different. There's also the image of your journey to this earth, the spiral. And then there was an image of a map. And they didn't know what this image was until I showed them. Listen, I was amazing in land navigation in the Marine Corps. I can look at something and immediately know where I'm at. I take my boys, we walk into the woods and we'll walk 17 miles. I made a 3-year-old walk like 9 miles one time. And he did it like a champ, bottle in hand. But there was a map, and I said, this is this valley. And there was a part on it that had the symbol of the creator. It's usually a diamond or a square with a circle and a dot in it. And it was at the end of it. And I said, it's that mountain right in front of you. And we went down into this chamber where there was what was teaching. It was literally the teaching of creation right along this big stone. The same as if what you would receive in a lodge, a Middu lodge. And then you'd move to another room. There was even a room that had a pyramid, and it was between 2 seats, chairs. And if you watched it as the sun came, and this is at the solstice of the summer, it was a man laying down and a woman standing up. And as the day goes, they come together as two people. You can see it with your own eyes. This was a ceiling room. And then along the side of one of the walls was another map that conveyed there. That's a dead end if you go this way, and you have to go this way. And you look out over the valley, and you can see that there is a natural way that someone who was dehydrated and hallucinating would have been going on a journey with their spirit to get to that mountain on the other side, where they would have had the Creator's Lodge for the initiate who had finished the journey. They had never realized that this was telling them a map to this mountain on the other side. And then I explained, you could see it clear as day. And so this is what they were doing. They were bringing initiates up. This is who you are. This is where you are. And now your spirit has to journey to the Creator's Lodge. And they would go through this teaching journey. This is one of the most fascinating things. Now, afterwards, I was taken to the home of Patricia Kent. She's one of the caretakers of this place, and she has something very sacred and special she wanted to show me. I didn't know about this. And as I got in, there was a big white stone. And on this stone along the bottom was a carved strip, exactly the same on the scroll that I chose to bring, because it's the creation scroll. And right in the center is a pyramid, the same as on our scroll, and the circle of the spirit resting upon it, the same as on our scroll, and a man sitting on a chair, the same as on our scroll. So I thought that was significant. This is a holy place. This was a teaching place. And it's right there in southern Utah. Couldn't believe it.
Amazing.
If you go, quickly, if you go there and you go to the Great Lakes, you're going to see the exact same things.
Incredible. So just want to give a quick shout out to not all who wander are lost. They didn't have a question, but they did a super chat and gave David and his family $20. And to Christmas Girl, who literally watches all of our videos. And I know Chief Midegah, she wants me to tell you she loves you and she appreciates all you're doing because she comments all the time. Okay, Trevor, next question, next super chat.
Okay, this is from Carissa, actually, and she's one of our favorite. So there's a couple of questions from her, but this one is, when is the last time you went inside an LDS temple? Have you done an endowment? Are you still a member of the church?
Yeah, actually, I had a pretty remarkable story. Well, we'll start from the beginning. I had a weird dream in December of 2000 that I was surrounded by utter, like this, darkness. And I was really like worried, and I looked down and I saw yellow footprints. Long story short, I was on X-Site in a search engine at the Portland Community College like that very morning and saw boot camp yellow footprints. Ended up in boot camp. I only had my Aaronic priesthood. And on graduation day, April 27th, 2001, I was picked up by branch president of Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego, Victor Bipperston, and I was taken to the San Diego Temple. And where I was then taken in my Marine uniform, which you should all dial back the whole thing of clothing, okay? Like you should dial it back. I was in my Marine uniform, and I didn't have a recommend. I didn't even have my Melchizedek priesthood. And I was taken back and into the temple, where I met with Temple President Clark, and they gave me my Melchizedek priesthood in the San Diego Temple. They gave me my temple recommend in the San Diego Temple, and then I went through the temple, and then immediately and then I flew to Portland, Oregon, where on May 5th, 2001, I went through the Portland Temple as well. But I did more than I did there, which is interesting. So my endowments are actually at the Portland Temple. And it's really interesting. It was almost like they just gave me a tour or something the first time. The last time I went to the temple was 14 years ago. It was in 2010. And I was a ward mission leader, but life happened. And I'm grateful that life did happen. Because if life did not happen, I would have not clung to my tribal family as strongly as I did and been able to then walk the path of the Middu through our Middu Lodge and said, there's something that needs to be reconciled here. So it's been 14 years ago. I am a member of the church. I am a member of the church. I am not active, but I am active with my Creator. Remember, there's a difference. There's a difference between 2% of your week in sitting in a pew and 98% of your week in a relationship with a journey with your God. And this is something that I want to say to the saints is remember restraint. Everybody loves the fruit on the tree. Everybody thinks that it's beautiful as it's nourished by that tree and it gets that light. And when it falls to the earth, for a while, everyone thinks what a beautiful fruit until the flesh is torn away. And all you see is that hard shell, and there's nothing that you would ever think is worth. You would actually, good Samaritans say you deserve where you are. But it's starting a journey to be who it is. pressed into the earth, you could say good riddance to bad rubbish. What an ugly little brown thing. But then when it's in the pressures of the earth, of its life, something magical happens. The Creator's working in every moment in our thoughts and in our heart and our decision for actions. The seed breaks forth, grows in crooked ways, left, right, up, down, until it reaches the surface. Because now it knows who it is and it never turns back. And then because it took that journey, it becomes that great tree. So 14 years ago, but I have been with my Creator every single day and every single minute since.
Yeah, it's interesting. Shane and I had a conversation today about this just driving home. And
2 hours ago.
Yeah, 2 hours ago. And it was like we were talking about one of our family members, we won't say who, and if he was active or not, right? And Shane said something like, he's like, man, I think there's probably more than half of the members who go to church 2 hours a week and, you know, consider themselves active. He's like, but I know that my family member is studying the gospel and, you know, following Jesus, and he's interacting every single day. And that person to us is a lot more active than someone that's just going and checking the boxes.
And what these are means of division. They're terms that are given. It doesn't matter that you're a member and a non-member. You're a child of the Creator, whether you have amnesia or you're awake equally, and you are connected equally, and the Creator is with you, loving you, guiding you. It's our responsibility when we meet those with amnesia to give the Spirit, the Comforter, the ability to influence them in their life. Are you pulling back that influence? Are you throwing up walls? Then once you're in, it's not enough. You're either active or inactive, worthy or unworthy. Do you have a piece of paper or don't you? Oh, your different degrees of acceptance with the Creator, He wouldn't feel the same. These are terms, and these terms are not given by the Creator. They're not given by the great peacemaker. These are terms that you use to divide people into sections, and you have to stop. You have to stop doing this. Most of your children that walk away never walked away from the Creator. They're in a moment of reflection. They're in dark pressures you can't understand because you're not them. And you need to trust and pray for them. Is it pray, act in faith, rely on the Spirit to do what you can never do, and trust that the Lord keeps His promises and everybody will come back. Encouraging unyieldingly, loving unyieldingly, and not using a term of division. Oh, I'm just really bad. I'm really sad you're inactive. Or when you're active, oh, I'm just really sad you're not worthy. Maybe they are worthy. They're just being honest. Just because you can sit down with somebody and you can answer questions that they ask in a way that they want to receive as a mirror doesn't mean you're being honest. Doesn't mean you're being worthy, right? Who are you to judge that? So stop. If you're not a judge of Israel, it's not your responsibility or your right to tell somebody they're worthy or unworthy, active or inactive. The Creator is connected to you, whether you are with amnesia or you are sitting in the celestial realm completely aware. You are equally connected. He loves you equally.
Love it.
Beautiful. Okay, quick shout out to Marvelous, $10 super chat. And I got the super chat of the night coming up here from Porter Compton. If you want to pull up Porter Compton's super chat, and Chief Midegah, here it is. Okay, sweet. This is his follow-up question. Are you down to baptize me?
Down to baptize you.
That's his question.
Hey, I do have the Aaronic priesthood, and I do have the Melchizedek priesthood, and these are priesthoods that are not removed from me. And so anybody who comes to the great peacemaker and says that they have a spirit, that they know that they are a professing saint, I don't care about professing saints. The second you say you're a professing saint, I'm going to tell you you're the greatest non-professing sinner. Everybody falls short. If you say you're and this is important. Yes, I would baptize you, but you'd have to look me in the eye and you'd have to tell me that you knew without a shadow of a doubt, that you are a spirit tethered to this earth, that you're a spirit in a body. This is a temple, and you're gonna honor that temple with every breath and heartbeat. That every step you take after you come out, you are relieving the womb. But now you're doing so with experience. You didn't have it before. Okay? That you then will hold yourself accountable to the responsibility of what that means. And it doesn't mean you can continue to do whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you want. It's what the Creator needs. We need the Creator to come here and dwell with us in a living house. Can't do that unless you do your part. So if you want to be a drop of water, you want to join the cloud and bring the rain, absolutely, I'd baptize you.
Amazing. Okay, Trevor, next super chat.
Okay.
You got it up?
Yes,
From
I got it up.
Elise Richmond.
All right, read it out.
All right, Elise asked, and thank you so much, Elise, and all of you that are participating here, almost 300 people watching live right now. What is the endowment of power? Also, what was it like to stand in the presence of our Redeemer?
Well, they're going to get me into a place I didn't want to be in. So
you can answer just the first if you want. What is the endowment of power? Well,
Careful.
Yeah, this is a tricky one here. You know, knowledge is power, right? You have to go and get that knowledge, okay? And I don't know if you've been there. I don't know if you've walked there. I don't know if you've been there. It's not something, there's a reason that some things are written and some things are oral. There's a reason there's a written Torah and an oral Torah. Everybody has the Bible and they can't understand why the Jews say it's less, because they haven't walked in the synagogue and heard the oral portion. It's like 50% more. I got the book sitting right here. And, the same thing with the Middu Lodge. There's a written portion on scrolls and then there's the oral. You got to show up to hear it. There's a written and then there's the oral. You got to go through the temple. I'm not going to talk about the sacred things in the temple. But what I'm going to tell you is that it's your birthright to go there and to get that information for you. Now, to stand in the presence of the Redeemer, that's another thing I didn't want to talk about. And please forgive me, because there is an inclination of people to lift somebody higher than themselves just because of an experience. Even though every one of us had the experience with the Creator and the great peacemaker before we came here, or when we leave here, or when he comes back if we happen to be here. Not more special than you. Equally sinning, equally trying. So I would say that in the moment that I had, I was very aware that, and I'm going to talk in really vague terms here. So in regards to the first question, I think it's important you take that journey and you discover that yourself. Okay. But that's that message of, why are you here? What is it that is the gift that your Creator wants to give you? Why were you made? Why are you here? You all ask, why isn't there a playbook? There was a playbook. Men, patriarchy broke the playbook. We thought we knew better. Okay? You need to go down that trail. Okay? Secondarily, I think that when you meet the great peacemaker, that you will be very aware, and that you will have an inability to move your body because you're aware. Meaning that you know that what you think is your free agency in that moment is not what you thought it was. It's an obligation. It's not an opportunity to be an idiot.
Okay,
Awesome.
Next question. I do have a question that I want to answer it. I don't think that he hasn't pulled it up. It's for Artman. And he asked a really good question here, and I just want to make sure we get it in here, and then we got some super chats to get to. He says, what do you think of Jesus Christ, and what do you think of Joseph Smith?
Yeah, hey, this is interesting. The great peacemaker, we call him great peacemaker because, all he was about was peace. He let people, they talk about how he went in the desert. Well, first of all, he was humble enough to claim that he knew nothing but what his father taught him. There was nothing that he did that he knew until his father, the Creator, your father, taught him. And he was so obedient that he said, I will only do what I have been taught, and I will remind my brothers and sisters of what the Creator has taught. He didn't lift himself higher than you. He walked lower than you. He walked in a desert with no food and water, and then told the story of the Good Samaritan. And many people forget that perhaps he's talking about the end of his own story in that journey, as he laid with a broken body next to a well. And it was the priest who came by who was supposed to be the one that was listening. I guess you just deserve where you're at. And it was somebody who they thought was the lowest of the low, and a female who actually higher than all of us, who took him and we gave him water and life back. So I think he's a great example. The great peacemaker is a great example of humility. To know that you have the ability to touch absolute power, and to have the humility to state that I will place myself lower than everybody around me. And not only that, but I will also say, even though I know how everything's working, enough to turn a few fish into enough to feed 5,000, to call the atomic elements together, to say, I don't do anything of myself. I have no power. Everything that I have comes from the Father. Everything. I know nothing except what he taught me. That's what he said. That's an example. That's a great example. Now, I think that's what I would say. Now, we know the great peacemaker came and talked to us as well. Okay. And he said the same thing. I am a reflection of who you're supposed to follow. I'm reminding you of the great gift that you can have if you just listen. If you just listen and do your part. Pray continually. Act with faith that has been heard. Rely on the Spirit. There is a great comforter around you doing more than you will ever do, and you do very little in the actual scheme of things. And to trust that the Father keeps his promises. He's not going to leave you on your own. So I think he's the great example, and we should follow that example. And then secondarily, Joseph Smith, you could take many directions with that man. I'll tell you, the first and foremost, he was a human being and he was a male. So automatically you're born as a failure. Okay. And every man knows what I'm talking about. We are all failures. Okay. And many of us forget that we're supposed to follow the direction of the mother. The strength of the mother is the generations that come through her. But how many of us, I'm so smart and I'm so strong and I can do this and that. And you go off on your own little way. Right? To hell with your unborn generations and the right to water and air. So Joseph Smith was a young boy who in 1823, at the age of 14, in a weird time in U.S. history, where they had now spread into the midst of the original peoples of that land that had come there in many migrations. We try to tell the story, many migrations after the flood. Right? About 2,500 years ago, there was 2 other migrations that came. And we try to, and so he was in the midst of this. And then you had a fractionization of Christianity. Everybody thinking that they knew better. And so he was just a young boy who just went into the woods and said, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And there's only 3 things that could have happened. The first thing is, and two of them, I'm just going to disqualify. The first one is that he went in and he saw Middu elders. He saw a lodge and he saw us talking about our history. Well, that's disqualified because he doesn't know our language. And even in the 1824 Sweet Corn Treaty, none of our people, they didn't understand what we were saying. But well, that's the first thing. Second thing is that one of our elders found this young man and said, we like his heart and we're going to gift him what we had before we're like migrated out of here. Remember 1823 to 1830s also when the genocide occurred against the Indian in North America in the United States, when Andrew Jackson, who killed more Indians than Adolf Hitler did Jews, and yet he's on your $20 bill and you ask why we're pissed off. Wake up. That we grabbed him and we taught him. Well, there's a problem there. We didn't know English at all. Or the great peacemaker said, I'm going to do a marvelous work and wonder. I'm going to take a young boy in the midst of a genociding people that was murdering and killing people in my name on 5 continents wrongly. And I'm going to give him a great gift. right? And I'm going to let that seed start rolling. And I think that's what happened. And because it came very quick after that, I think he was a man. And as a man, he is a natural failure. There are no men who are perfect. There are no men who are without error. And you have to understand that. And I just had a butterfly come around. And you have to accept that. It is one of the problems we have is that we elevate somebody the second they talk truth. We have to stop doing that. I think Joseph Smith was a professing sinner and a trying saint. I think that he came in a period of time that brought about a churning of history so that today we could be talking as equals. And that he was a part of that because we know that every person is connected to the entire universe. One sound that you make in truth resounds through the entire earth and the entire universe because it enables the creator to act. Or you turn it off. You decide. So that's what I'd say, unless you want to get more specific.
Perfect. Trevor, next. Trevor, you there? You on mute?
Yes, I'm on mute. Thank you. Okay. This one is from Angie Kennitzer. Have you read the Nemenhah record, and what are your feelings and beliefs about it? How well have the different tribal leaders within the whole natives come together? So kind of two ones. Let's jump with the Nemenhah one.
Yeah, I actually know Philip Cloudpiler, and I've had the opportunity to, we say Ani. That's how we say hello, but it really means is I'm looking in your eyes, I'm seeing your spirit. There's a lot of elders that won't look into the eyes of my family because they know that we will see their spirit. And I looked in this man's eyes, and I have spoken with him, and they've never, and just to start from the beginning, they've never sought out fame, they've never sought out wealth, they've never sought out to get anyone's approval for it. They're just continuing forward the history of their family. Now, having started so I've spoken to the man, I think he's a truthful person. I grew up with the Nez Perce or the Nimipu, okay? And they are an Ojibwe-speaking people as well. They're Algonquin. They're Seven Fires people that migrated there. And so it's not shocking to me that when I read this record, that, heck, my name is even in the record. And that's really strange. That's really strange. That it is in similitude to what is in the Book of Mormon, so it adds upon it. It gives greater depth. It's also in similitude to the scrolls we have and adds upon it. I'll be traveling to visit with him and their tribe in Missouri in August. And we'll be going to some sacred places for us and also to discuss more with them, their family. Because as far as we can tell, as far as we can ascertain, is that they're also Anishinaabeg peoples that just carried the record that we know that every family was told they have to write their history. We know this. And so it's not surprising to have those histories coming forth. It doesn't take away, it adds upon. And as you, as LDS, tell people around the world, if it adds upon, then receive it. If it doesn't take away, don't reject it. But I can certainly tell you that there's nothing in opposition to the scrolls and nothing in opposition to the Book of Mormon, which we know is 1/100th of the record that we know would have come from the scrolls. So I would say that I would urge you to go read it. Now, if you are, and I'll say this disclaimer, if you're of the belief it's just false and you're going to say it's false no matter what. Well, I read the book by Mark Twain called Huckleberry Finn, and that's fiction and that's false as well. And I got something from that as a kid. Okay. Listen, you turn your little light box television on every single day, and there is not a single thing you see on that box that is nonfiction. Everything is false. Everybody's playing an actor and filling a role and telling a fake story that's made up to a camera. Even your news media now. Okay? The one thing you could believe on in the afternoon for the hour, Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and all these things that now those are fake people too, telling you lies and they're lying. Right? Nothing is real, and yet you watch it. So I would urge you to just read the book. And if you get something from it that adds upon your faith, good. Good. You've lost nothing. But I don't stand in opposition to it. Why would I do that? It's not my place to judge another family's history.
Love it. Okay. Quick shouts out to Hank Holiday. Here's his question. He gave a $40 super chat and he said, "Hello, Midegah. My question is, have you had a nice day?" Thanks, brother. Thank you for your
Man,
service.
thank you. So, no one ever asks me that. No one ever asks me that, and I don't want to say I did. I had a great day. I had a nice conversation with Miss Kozikwe, Sherry Cardinal, and trust me, I visited all the grandmothers in North America, even from Geronimo's granddaughter, who's from the Apache. The Apache are also Dene, or you call them Navajo. To the matriarchs of the North, who are Grand National Chiefs, to the matriarchs of the Rocky Mountains and the Salish, and all in between. And I'll tell you, the grandmother who had the most to offer of anyone I've ever met is Miss Kozue Sherry Cardinal. And so we was on an amazing podcast today with her, and with a guy who had a real kind heart, and he just cared about talking about unity. And then I had a call with a really interesting guy named David Edwards, who I literally I cooked the pizza and just ate the pizza and listened to him for an hour. Because, sometimes you got to empty your cup and let other people put water in it. Even if you don't think they have anything to offer, right? It's called respect. I did that and I really enjoyed that. It was like, well, I told him, it's like watching a movie. He's so animated. And then I took a nice 2-hour walk in the night, and I went up to the plateau behind me, the center of Baden-Württemberg, because I'm here to see my sons in July. I make the hard choice to cross that water nonstop so those boys know that their dad is fulfilling his responsibility to make them young men. And I want them to be young men of the Creator. And then I came back here. So it was an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Sterling Compton, 2 super chats. All he says is shout out from Southern Utah. Love the message. Keep it up. Okay. So many people appreciate your message and they're just saying, keep it up. And looks like the last super chat, we may save this for totally last, from Brad
Thank you,
Lane.
Sterling.
He
Shane,
said,
go ahead.
Just from Brad Lane, and we may keep this to the end because he says, can you sing a blessing to us for us of the Spirit? And we may close that out on the end just for Brad. And the song I want you to sing is actually the song that you and I sang together, because I think that song could be a song that everybody could know and everybody could learn. So let's just table that for the end, that we'll sing that song if you know the song I'm talking about.
And there's a purpose, there's a reason behind me singing that song. And that's the song when everybody was together, that's the song they sung as they welcomed the Creator into their lives, as they looked around because they were born. I want to talk about it before we sing it in the half hour. But when we were born initially, there was a plan and there were people waiting for you, and they knew who you were. And they said, welcome, we're here to help you. You're not alone. Don't be confused. Okay, this is who you are and why you're here and what you got to do, and we're going to support you. And this place you're in is a great house. This is a temple that the Creator has made for us to grow and learn in. And oh, by the way, you're in a sacred temple because you're learning to dwell in this body in this place so that we can go into the next body in the next place, which is what we're seeking. And when they would come together, they'd say, hey, great Creator, you made such a great thing to own. So what you give, I accept. And then they called the Creator into the Spirit, into their life, into their body. But you remember, we're the ones that say that we're spirits and bodies, but we don't dwell alone. I don't know if you all remember, but when you receive the Holy Ghost or the Comforter, it's another spirit dwelling within you. Are you welcoming of that guest in your temple? Are you? Or are you causing every reason for him to not enter the door? It's right there in your heart. Reflect on that a little bit, but we'll sing it later.
Amazing. Trevor, do you got any questions for him?
Yeah. We've got, I want to cover a few, just give some props out there. Not all who wander are lost. We love you. Awesome comments. Just threw out a little $20 super sticker. Peter Compton. I think I'd like you to read my first question. We already covered that one.
We covered him.
Okay, there's another one right here.
Sean,
is
I already shouted out Marvelous. Sean Ryle asked this question. I think they're two really good questions. He was the last one to ask a super chat. I don't know if you can pull it up there, but they're pretty easy questions here. He says, Chief Midegah, there it is. Might I ask something? How do you increase your own faith? And I think this next one is so powerful. How do you come back from a low point?
Hey, and I've been in some low points. Let me tell you what, we all have. So, I think faith, right? Your faith it's got to be the foundation of your strength. It's being willing to believe that it's like being willing to be the only one. Like you are willing to be the only one that what you know to be true is, so you will live as if it's real. Okay? And so for me, and that also helps me come back from my low points. Even when I was a child, I was very aware of who my best friend was in this life. And your best friend is not the person smiling at you, right? It's the person who's filling your heart with hope. Even if there's one little ember left in the fire, you got to give some breath to it, right? That's the belief that you can remake the fire. Okay? And so I guess it's that perseverance has to be founded in something. It maybe to others it's faith. You're acting as if something that can't be proven is real. Well, you have to believe it so much that it's fact to you, that it is real. And then magically it manifests in your life. Now, there's a story that I go back to a lot. There's a story I go back to a lot. Persistence is the only thing that gets failure out of the way of your success. Okay? You have to live with your heart. Okay? And you have to act. You have to do something to prove that what you say is faith is real. Sitting on a couch and crying doesn't show any action. You got to get up and say, I'm going to go do something because you told me that if I did, you would cover the gap. Creator, you said you keep your word, that where I fall short, you will lift higher. And so I always think back to the oral Torah. You read the Bible. I read the Bible, the oral and written Torah. Not just what the Greeks had, what you got. And when Moses took that staff and they were at the Red Sea and they had millions of people there. And I mean, it's a big body of water. Okay. And they didn't know what to do. And he took that staff and he commanded that the waters would part when they crossed to the other side. The full dialogue. And nothing actually happened in the actual oral Torah. What happened was everybody stood there and contended with each other. Should we go back? Should we fight? Should we go a different direction? And a single man stood up and he said, you said the waters will part if we go to the other side. And Moses said, yes. And he started walking. You can go ask any rabbi this story and they'll tell us the truth. And you should care just as much about the faith that Jesus grew up in and how he saw things and understood things. Not just a book that was given to you after 1,300 years of madmen trying to figure out how to control you, right? And this man walked into the water, went all the way up to here, and he turned around and looked back, and then he took a step further. That right there is a low point. If I take one more step, I'm going to drown. I'm close to drowning. And he took that step because he had faith. And when he did, the waters parted and everybody walked across, right? You have to act upon your faith. They say faith without works is dead. No, what it's not saying is faith without action, that it's real, gives you nothing. You gain nothing because you don't give the Creator the ability to prove to you that he's there, that he's real. Okay, do you understand me?
Beautiful. Trevor, do you have the super chat for Joe Brazier? He asked this question. The Book of Mormon is a record of your people. The Lord commands the house of Israel to search diligently the words of Isaiah. 3 Nephi 23:1. Do your people have any writings that are the words of Isaiah?
There's a lot of similarities. Shouldn't be surprising.
Cool.
So
and there's been some other people that have asked questions about the scrolls that you do carry. Can you talk anything about those scrolls? They're
songs and teachings of the first man and first mother and father. based upon where I was going in my life and my journey and I was focused on and how I was living, that was felt that was what would be important for me to remember, as we're very much trying to remember today who we are, and we're almost at a restart. And so that's what those scrolls mean to me. They talk about the first mother and father when they were created, the first mother and father when they went and spoke with their creator, and what he said to them, their great task that they had to name all things, and the families they had along the way. It talks about when they returned and they were told that they hadn't completed the job. They had to name themselves too. They were made, they're in creation, and they named themselves. It talks about that. It talks about when they died. There's a scroll that talks about when they died, right? And the question the creator asked that all the children heard, and that if what they were going through was love, and they sang a song. They sang a song about going home because they could see through the veil, right? They could see through this flaming sword that's before us, this rainbow veil of light that shows all these colors and dimension that we think's real, and it's not. It's just it's a curtain that's cast before us. Talked about that. And then in addition, talking about how you're supposed to view yourself in relation to responsibility with your ancestors and with the unborn generations. You are a vital part of their the purpose and their hope, right? But a lot of the scrolls are just historical things, just like you read and it came to pass. There's a lot of just historical stuff. Dot. That's why I said that when hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of scrolls get brought out, and we already know what they mean. We don't need somebody to come and tell us what they mean. Okay. That you're going to find things that are so parallel, so the same, that you'll understand why in the 1640s, when the Jesuits stood at the center of the Great Lakes and they brought their Bible and we received them as brothers, and we read and they shared their Bible with us with an interpreter, we then rolled our scrolls out and they flipped out and said, "You're making a new Bible. You'll replace our Bible." No, we just had more of a connection with the Torah than they did. But don't be surprised. Where did Lehi send his sons, Nephi, Samuel, Laman, and Lemuel? He sent them back to Jerusalem. Why? Not just to get the little plates of the genealogy, but to get those 5 books. Those 5 books. So you shouldn't be surprised to see when we release our scrolls to see that there's a repetition of the same concepts that's pretty stunning. Now, related to Isaiah, that's talking about being in the present and knowing the future, right? We have that as well. But guys like me, my guys like me, we don't focus on that, because if you focus on that, then you'll tend to try to make happen what will happen if you just live your life in a good way.
Love it. Okay, this one you're going to chuckle. So Peter Compton, the guy who asked about getting baptized, he donates another $10 and he goes, "So how can I move forward?" He's boxing you in. How can I move forward? You gotta fly to Germany.
Well, no, I don't stay in Germany all the time. I'm flying back all the time. I go back to Maine. I go back to Ohio. I go back to Michigan. I go back to North Dakota. I go back to Utah. I go back to British Columbia. I go back to Northwest Territories, Ontario, Quebec. I go back equally to all these locations. So the first thing you have to do is to do like what David did with Saul, recognize the authority of those that are trying to baptize you and to go and fulfill their requirements to do so first. Okay? So I would ask you to first reach out to your local ward. I'd ask you to ask for some missionaries to come and talk to you. You already know. It's just a formality, right? And then once you have met the conversational understanding that you know what's going to happen when you go in that water, you're going back to the womb. You're going back to the womb. How lucky are you? You have experience now. And when you stand up, it's not that you're a new person, okay? But you have a new obligation. Okay. And everything before that is a mulligan. And hey, well, just let that go. That's the promise he gave. Just let that go. It's almost as if they say you died no, you go back to the womb, become a new human. And you call me when that point's happen and I'll be there. I do have the Aaronic and Melchizedek priesthood, and I would gladly baptize you.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Now we just had an
We'll bring
amazing
Zion
super
Media
chat.
with me.
We just had an amazing super chat come in from Lisa Burnham. And Trevor, I don't know if you can throw this question up.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you off the hook there that quickly. He just said he'll bring Zion Media with him to baptize him.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
You guys will come.
Let's go. Bringing people to Christ.
We will not change this world until we connect hearts into a new building of humanity. And we have to be willing to show up.
That's awesome. This Lisa Burnham, and Lisa submitted several questions, but she finally realized that her question wasn't going to get to it, so she did a super chat. What advice teaching do you have for a woman who are trying to emulate the first mother of Heavenly Mother, especially those busy with many little ones? Also, my hubby Steve says Semper Fi. Thank you.
Hey, hoorah. Hey, there was a time when you walk by people and you say good morning, good afternoon. All I said was rah. That's all I said. So, hey, Semper Fi to you too. I would say that your greatest obligation is to remind your children who they are and their obligations and responsibility. One of the most powerful thing you can do, the literal most powerful, is help them remember that they were in your womb, and that's sacred. What you were inside me. Did you know? And I tell my sons this too, because they always argue with their mom, and I have to sit them down and be dad. Hey, listen, did you know that the first sound you heard on this earth was your mother's heartbeat? You better show her some respect. Did you know the first feeling you ever felt was her heartbeat? You better act with restraint. Did you know that then you realized her heart was within inside you? You better open and use your ears. And I ask them, what are ears for? And they'll say, listening. Who should you listen to? Your mother. Your mother. So teach them that. And take that feather, the most sacred thing you could give them. It doesn't remove their strength. It just directs it. And as Miss Kozikwe, Sherry Cardinal, she's just pushing this nonstop because do your job, not the women. The men need to do their dang job. And that means women need to speak up. That the thin side sets the direction. Hey, listen, young men. Your responsibility is to use your strength and your endurance. Oh, you're so strong. To protect my generations. This is the mother speaking. Everything you do, everything is supposed to promote and protect that. Tell them continually. The thick side of the feather is action. You got to do it. But I'm telling you what you have to do. And we have to be obedient and humble ourselves to be able to accept that. And I know it's hard for guys. I'm the man. I have the priesthood. Oh, you know what? And they can also connect spirits with bodies in their body too. You're not special. All right? They're special. And without them, we wouldn't have any generations. So wake up. So I would just tell her to tell them the truth. Remind them daily. You are my greatest work of art. Your heart is my greatest work of art. And I want to tell you your first 3 memories because I know it. And it's true. You heard my heart. You felt it. You're not alone. And I'll stand by you no matter what you do. You will fail in this life. You will succeed as well. And I'll hold you to the earth so you don't get too egomaniacal. And but when you fail, I'm going to be there to hold your hand. And when you succeed, I'm equally going to hold your hand. Tell them that you will love them. You will love them when they make mistakes as if they didn't make mistakes, because they are your great work of art. That's the only way we're going to stop this nonsense.
I want to speak to that a little bit, being the chief grandmother here. One of the things I teach is, as Midegah said, I'm driving it home, is that women need to stand up and take their place. We've been subjected or subservient way too long, and it was never intended to be that way. I come from a matrilineal culture where the ownership and the direction and the guidance and the decisions were all made by the women. And we have let that go. We have given it up. And so I really don't blame men entirely for their descent, okay, and for where the world is today, because we haven't upheld our side of the feather either. So we have to stand up and recognize who we are, the Ogi Chagwan, our own spirit within, connected to the Creator, is no less than the man. And I could go into Ephesians and all of that, but it's being interpreted wrongly. It's being interpreted patriarchally when what it says is that the men are to love the women like Jesus loved the church, which is sacrificial love, not abuse, not subservience. And we need to recapture that for ourselves in our own spirit and spend time growing in our own spirit to understand our Creator's given role for us in the world and with our children. It comes first and foremost with the self, so that we can pass on not only to our sons, but to our daughters, our strength and our role and our God-given purpose in the world. So until the men and women come together equally in their roles, we're going to continue to see the chaos and the upside down relationships and the divorces and all of these things, because we're not doing it right.
Thank you so much. Okay. Random Stuff just posted a super chat, said, and I believe, I don't know if we have the rabbis on yet, but we have some rabbis that will be coming on here.
They're in the spiritual world, Shane.
They're in the spirit world, which means that they're in the waiting room to come in at 7:30. But this is a question for the rabbis. It says, what do the rabbis you met with think about your history of the first parents being on Mackinac Island? I've heard they believe Eden was in Israel.
Nah, well, first let me clarify that we believe that the first mother and father walked first upon North America. This is before the flood. And that they went to a place at the center of the Great Lakes that we still to this day call Garden River. And that they were taken by the great peacemaker many generations later to an island that's called Mackinac Island. It's just in the center of the Great Lakes, where there's a really interesting structure called Sugarloaf Rock. And that when the earth had been created, the Creator, to show us an example, he didn't need to rest, okay? But he did. And that they believed that he rested there. And so you would have to ask him if he's on, their feelings in that. Now, we know after the flood that boats float and you float other places. And then your first thing to do is to associate where you are with where you were. No boat floats on water in a circle. It moves somewhere. It goes somewhere. And so, we've pointed out also a lot of the writings that we have at the Great Lakes. And Dr. Michael Schulman from Israel said that they believe that those things are from before the flood, that they were actually over in the Americas. He knew this was a round world. The Creator didn't make a flat surface.
Okay, we may even be able to add the rabbi in here and have him discuss that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trevor, there he is, right there.
Hey, Rabbi Schulman. Hey, so they had a question, and the question was, in us sharing in our history, that the first mother and father, this is pre-flood, that we believe that they were formed from the red clay in what you call now North America, and that they walked to the center of the Great Lakes to a place we still call the Garden River, and that they were informed that when the Creator had made the world, that he rested at a place called Sugarloaf Rock. It's a really interesting island in the center of the Great Lakes. And their question basically is, what's your thoughts on the fact that before the flood that people were over in North America?
Well, thank you for your question. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and to meet all of you. It's a great question you ask, and the way our Torah says is that in the beginning of time, Earth was a very a different state. It was a spiritual state, although it was physical, it was also spiritual. So the Garden of Eden existed in a physical realm, but also in a spiritual realm, which really encompassed the entire world. So there was no specific place that was not Garden of Eden. It was everywhere. And therefore, even though maybe there's some physical representation that happened in the Eden as it was expressed as it was on the Mount of Zion, in the place where temple was later given as a place for all people to find connection, and also if there's any need for forgiveness. However, that does not that in essence that really includes the entire world. So therefore, whatever traditions people may have, there may be a physical place or not a physical place that they understood it coming from. Essentially, we all come from the same place, and there may be difference in traditions. The difference in traditions is only about how we all see our grandparents teach us what they saw, and therefore the main thing that we need to know is, instead of what's difference in tradition, is that we all come from the same person.
That's right.
And that's my message to you. The same applies to the mentioned about before the time of Noah. Almost all traditions, all religions have some story of Noah, a story where the world went down the wrong path, and then we needed to reconstruct it in the proper way. And there may be difference in the different traditions may have different variations, but the same concept exists, is that we have a world that we know can go wrong, and we have to do it right. And all people have one tradition and one lesson that was given by a creator to the first person that goes beyond religions, beyond backgrounds. All people have a proper way. Before even organized religion, before Judaism came around, there was a path to the creator. There was a connection between Adam, the first man, and creator.
You want to talk about that a little bit and the 7 teachings? I know that for the Anishinaabe, we carried a remnant, and we call these grandfather teachings from the grandfather. And it was a remarkable thing last November to sit down and to affirm these are the same things, that we're carrying the same message. We're brothers. And for us, this was 2,500 years ago came to us, and we just carried it because it was so significant to us just being good people. And can you talk more about just because we got him on here, and Rabbi Shulman has been like a brother to me in helping guide along this path. Can you talk a little bit about what Noah told his children?
And Rabbi, can you get a little closer to your device just so we can hear you a little better with your mic?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
We're all children.
It's a little better.
Father.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so for those who have not yet heard me before, my name is Rabbi Yossi Shulman. I live in Northeast Pennsylvania, and I have an organization called Unite the World. We all face a crisis of faith today in the world. We see that very clearly in our own communities and the world in general. And if we want to make that a better world, which we all do, we all want a better world for all children. We all believe that there is a better world in store for us. If we are to make that happen, we have to go back to the original source. What was it like when all humanity got along? What was it like when there was a better world? And originally that was in the Garden of Eden, when mankind walked with Creator, man and woman walked with Creator in harmony. And if we want to recreate that, which we're meant to, we have to create that through all of our own experiences, but we need guidance along the way. And that guidance was provided to the first person, because he was not Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Native American, Indian. He was human. We're all from him. And he and she, it was one person at that point, later became 2. But Adam and his wife Eve had a direction given to them by Creator. And we're meant to live in that direction. And if we do, we'll get along a lot peacefully. So there are 7 principles that in the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, are given to Adam and to Eve, Chava in Hebrew. And that is what we are all meant to live with. we Jews have our own traditions, but we are meant as to be teachers. We're chosen to be teachers of the original code, the 7 principles for all people. That's what we're chosen for. But we all need to do that. So the 7 principles are, I'll count them for you, to recognize the higher power, to respect the higher power, use positive speech, respect all human life, respect the animal life and the creatures of the world around us. We have to be honest, not to steal. We have to be able to have established courts of justice. That means have good education, teach our children how to live properly with charity and kindness, right? And these are the things that we need to be aware of all the time, because if we forget these things, if we don't fulfill them all day long, we end up going back to chaos. So there are 7 principles that we need to think about, we need to reflect on all the time. And I encourage you to go through those principles, to reflect upon them, to share them with others. The last one, which will be 2 more, which we have to respect family, relationships, and marriage, the proper ways to love. We have to respect other people's property. That's part of honesty. So we have to respect everything that is given to us in our realm, because it comes from the higher power, and it comes to us all equally. So we can live in harmony. We can live with the 7 principles. We can respect each other for our differences and know that all of our experiences together are going towards that beautiful world of Eden that we once had when we are one. But now it's being more magnificent because we're coming together with all of our experiences and all of our combined lessons that we've learned throughout history.
And what I find
I
fascinating
love that.
about this is we've been working for the last 80 years with tribal groups around. These are guys that elders older than me, that we're trying to find drops of water we share in common. And one of the things that we find in the indigenous groups around the world is an understanding of 7 teachings.
Yep.
And so we're working with the Anishinaabe elders are working with the sages of Israel in going to each of the indigenous nations in the world and trying to sew together that thing that we share in common, which, believe it or not, are these 7 principles that they can all stand at the table and say, yeah, we absolutely 100% agree and believe in that. And so we're having proclamations signed we started with between the Anishinaabe and the Sages of Israel last November. And we have these things also coming through this next fall and through the next year with groups around the world. And so we would ask you to help us on our way and to go to unitetheworld.org/donate. And if you can share that link, I'd really appreciate it, because we need your help. Because we are taking the tribal peoples of North America, and our elders are working with the sages of Israel in trying to sew the human family back together with 7 simple things we all agree on. And we need your help in doing that. And so I'd ask you to go to unitetheworld.org/donate and to be a drop of water to help us make this cloud that's going to bring the rain. It's the least you can do, because we're all choosing to fight right now for the unborn generations to live in a world that we can only dream about, that's their reality right now because of what you're doing right now.
I love this. In fact, it's so cool that here we got, some Mormon guys. We got some amazing women. We've got a chief and Chief Midegah, and we've got a rabbi. And I think that the time to unify is now. And so I get chills just seeing what we're seeing right here. And in my opinion, this is just the beginning of the gathering. So thank you so much for coming on. I want to jump to one last question here, Chief Midegah. This is from Daniel Tukuafu. I hope I said that right. He said, Chief Midegah, Book of Mormon prophecy says, if the Gentiles repent and accept the fullness of the restored gospel, they'll be numbered with the remnant of Lehi. How do you see that coming about? Tribal adoption?
Well, we've always adopted people into tribes. When you choose to be a part of a culture and to live the way they do, you're a part of that family. And so just as we just shared with Rabbi Shulman, and his father's in Jerusalem right now, working with the international movement to spread these simple 7 teachings. That I think the first thing we can do is to remember the teachings of our ancestors first, and then those other things that may seem as means of division, they kind of shift to the side. And so I would say that the fastest way to become a part of the family is to remember that you're children of Noah, and to first follow what Noah said, and then the rest is going to work itself out. The rest, we're going to get there. So it's not about, it's sort of like, a kid let's say a kid grows up in the wilderness and has no education, and you bring them into your home and you put them in a state of comfort where the things they used to have to fear for are provided, and then you give them an education. Well, the first thing, and they're more able to accept that education. Well, the first thing we have to do is to provide the comfort of knowing what your initial obligation is. Your initial obligation is to follow the teachings first and foremost that was given to Adam and Noah, number 1. Let's get there first. If we can all agree that there's only one creator, that creator should have respect, that human life is sacred, that property rights are sacred, okay, that the plant and animals and the reality around us is sacred, that our body is a temple and is sacred, it's holding a sacred spirit that's gifted to you, your intelligence, and that all of our systems should be put together in a way to promote justice and equity, perfect justice and equity, the best of our ability, not for those who have more money or those who don't, but not just for us, but for everything around us. If we do that right now first, those other things that people choose as means of division will go to the wayside, because you'll find out, oh, I'm standing on my land and you're on your land, and there's a river between, the river's watering both sides. So let's start in the one place that we can agree on first. And then that stuff's going to work itself out.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Trevor, any other questions? Has Jer joined us yet?
He's currently in Geneva.
Oh, there is Jer.
Hey,
Jer,
so
right there.
Oh,
Chief, could
Jer,
you just introduce everybody to who Jer is?
Jer Pelletier, Jer the Baird Pelletier, is a Chippewa Indian from the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation, which is the heartbeat of North America, and it always set the example of for all the nations in North America. And it's also not widely known, but it's the 8th stopping point in the 7 Fires migration. Now, Jer Pelletier comes from a very large clan, and he is running for chairman of the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation, focused on tradition and restoration of the sacred things to our people, which are the 7 grandfather teachings, which we were just talking about, and making the foundation of our government and sovereignty upon the will of the Creator that gifted us, our life. And so he is a friend of the traditional. He is a friend of the American. He's a friend of the Canadian. Heck, he's even enrolled in a Canadian tribe too. And he's the great champion of what's coming forth in a restoration within the tribal nations of North America. So, Jer, I know you're in Geneva, and I'd like, if you could introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're doing in Geneva, brother.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm using my AirPods. So, I'm in Geneva, Switzerland currently. There are several conferences that are happening at the United Nations, and 2 of them have to do with Indigenous rights. And so I'm here attending, listening to Indigenous leaders from all around the world, people from Latin America, Indigenous people from Scandinavia, from Japan, from Southeast Asia, all over the world, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and of course, North America. We have so many people here speaking truth to power, that are speaking to the United Nations and advising them on the best practices and the best ways forward for ensuring that Indigenous rights around the world are respected, honored, and that the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples is not just words on a page, but it is something that we all live by all around the world. So preserving tribal sovereignty, Indigenous sovereignty, ensuring that Indigenous peoples, Indigenous nations have the right to self-determination to build themselves up. And I'm proud. I'm very honored to be able to come here and to witness this happening.
Perfect. And Chief Midegah, can you give us some background? Like, you've got a lot of people on here. You've got a lot of people supporting you, including Zion Media. But just talk to me about what you were doing. A lot of people don't know what you were doing until you burst on the scene in the LDS community. But you've been doing a lot of work before this, uniting people and really gathering Israel.
Yeah, unity. It's about unity. It's about finding a single drop of water we share in common, because we're trying to make a cloud. And then, along that way, you would choose brotherhood and sisterhood over division. And when you choose that path, you'll find that you have more in common than different. We have a traditional Indian here. We have a Catholic Indian in Jer. We have a Christian Indian in she's Christian and traditional in Miss Kozikwe. We have and we have one of the sages of Israel, and we're one family sitting at the circle around the fire. We don't care about the things we disagree on. That's our own perception on reality. But we know there's only one creator, and that creator made us. We know we have an obligation to deal better within our families and communities. And so he just took that approach. Now, Jared Peltier, he's from the reservation that my family found themselves on after the 1863 treaty. And this has been a 150-year moment where for the first time we have the ability to take control of our own destiny and to set an example for North America. And so we're doing many parallels, which is restoring spiritual unity, restoring political unity, which should really be focused on the family, and then the greater global community. And so, this is the great gift when you don't choose division. You don't find reasons to say you're different. And that's what we've been doing. We're trying to set an example here that we can make a very great cloud. And we have a larger group around the world, but these are some very special people to me. And I would ask everybody to help get Jer across the finish line, to go to jerforchair.com and to help him get across the finish line. This is the restart in the heart of Turtle Island. This is respecting tradition, but it's also honoring the creator. It's also recognizing that technology was a great gift given to us to take what took this amount of time to this amount of time. Well, why take more? Why not have more time for your family? And so that's sort of what we were doing, was just trying to find reasons to sit in a circle. And it all came back to the creator. And here's the thing I want to remind everybody. What did Yeshua, Jesus, say? I didn't know anything except what the creator told me. I should tell you, you should be really focused on what the creator said.
Quick question for you. There's a lot of people asking, is there any spiritual adoption into native tribes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all tribes are the same. We're one family, so we're going to do things that are the same. But that it is common to go to our lodges, and just as I've been into the Jewish synagogues, this is the lodge the Creator gave to them, and I've seen people from all walks of life that are sitting in there as brothers equal under the Creator, who they call Hashem their friend, and He is your friend. And we are the same way. When you choose to come and sit and to take your cup and empty it and say, tell me what you got, let me take some of your water. As long as the focus is solely on that there's only one creator, okay, and that all things come from that creator, and that humanity is sacred to that creator, and that what you've gained in your walk is not someone else's to take away, and that nature is also a great gift from the creator that you should have restraint and protect, and that you can believe the same as us. I'm not saying so. To the rabbis, they'd say, you're talking like us. I'm talking like us because we're one family, that I'm in a temple. You know that you're a spirit in a temple. Your body is a great gift to you. You better honor it. And that you're supposed to be a part of a greater system. You're supposed to be a part of a change for good. You believe that, you can sit in my circle. You're the same as me. You're the same as them. We're all the same family, and we're trying to return to it. We all have the same father, and his name's Noah. We would say Nusha, the father. Well, who cares? The language was shifted at the tower. Let's first sit in the circle. Let's do that first. And then understand that the Father, the great creator, that he knows all his children, just as you know your children. I had 6, 3 girls and 3 boys, and every single one of them, I'm going to have to talk to a little bit differently. Some of them I'm going to rely on to talk to each other. Some of them I'm going to give a great responsibility and hold them accountable to the others. And it's their responsibility to remember their accountability. Those words go together. And so, yes, we do adopt people. I'm the one I am an Ogima of the Adik Dem, one of the original 7 clans. And I am matrilineally appointed from the star woman line of those people who came in that ship and gave us our sacred 8-pointed star to remind us of where we come from. And is it not 2 stars of David overlapped? And we are to profess to you with the tongue that we were given when that tower fell, you are Anishinaabe. Equally as me. You are a spirit tethered to this earth, and you are mostly there than here. You're a toe dipped in water. That you're an Oji Chagwan. You're a part of a spirit in a body, and you're an Ojibwe. You're the same as me. I'm not different than you. There's no blood quantum. There's no what part of me is different than you. It's the same. We have the same family. That you're recording a vision with the Creator as equally as I do, whether you have amnesia and aren't aware or you are aware. And you are accountable to that. So you are already a part of it the moment you believe that. And I think that's what's significant about the Latter-day Saints is you already know you are spirits and bodies. You're already there. So.
Okay, so I want
I want to speak to that for just a second, because I think we have an idea that being adopted into anything is like joining the church. You just don't join. You just don't walk in and say, here I am. It's a process, and it's a spiritual process. And it takes years of learning and growing and listening and observing. And then as you are invited to go through the lodges to increase your wisdom and knowledge, it's a spiritual process. It's not just something that you can sign up for.
That's right.
So I would suggest that everybody do their spiritual work and focus on their spiritual growth, because then Creator can lead you to where you're supposed to be. Who knows which tribe you end up with? I sure didn't. Okay. I started out with the Tuscarora and the Haudenosaunee. And here I am when I found out that I was actually Ojibwe. But I started out as Ogi Chagwan. I always knew I was a spirit, and I had that sense, but I didn't know where I belonged on the earth. So it was a spiritual process for me to find my earth family. So I would suggest that you focus more on your spiritual growth and not on joining a tribe or being adopted into a tribe that may or may not be your pathway.
Because you're already in a family. It's the human family. You're already there. And we know when the tower fell, they were sent to 70 locations. All right. There's 70 families out there. All right. You're a part of a family. But again, we all have the same father. So you're going to find the place you're supposed to be. Just again, like Ms. Kozikwe said, starts in your heart, starts with your spirit, starts with the simple truths we all know we share in common, those 7 teachings, and then you'll find your way. You'll be okay.
Okay, so I'm going to do what I'm going to call rapid fire. We're going to try and get through a bunch of questions really quick. Try to keep your answer, I know this is going to be difficult, to at least like 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. First question is from Dog Named Bingo. And his question was, how similar are the scrolls that you carry to what you know is in the Book of Mormon?
We all have, here's the thing, when you find any people on the earth and you have their writings of their connection with the Creator, there's going to be more in common than different. And so the thing that what you're saying in the Book of Mormon, the writings that were found of that people migrated there after the flood, well, the Algonquin Midu elder, Salwawati, the first story he shared with the rabbis was, you know how my family got here? We came here after the tower fell. Languages are confused. We walked over. Oh, that's our history. Or we have the history of those that came across the Atlantic and Pacific. Now you find that story in there as well, but that's our living history. We also have the history of where our teaching lodge came. And that was a boat that froze in water about 2,500 years ago. And they gave us some tokens and some signs to remember where we came from, where that came from. And that helped us find our way back to the rabbis. And so you're not going to find a lot that's different. You'll find more that sustains and adds upon. But again, that's the way it works. Every writing about the Creator in the world will lead everybody back to the Torah. It doesn't matter what book you find, there will be drops of water, and you'll realize it's a grandchild of the Torah. Every idea you may have that comes from your spiritual history you're going to find it all goes back to the Torah. Whether you're in the Muslim Islam, whether you're in Mormonism, whether you're in the Midday We Win, or whether you're in even other faiths around the world, when you write down the core simple things, you say, well, that's the grandfather. It's right back there. And so you're going to find always more in common. But yeah, that's almost identical, just a short snippet.
Okay. Trevor, do you got a bunch of rapid fire questions?
I do.
Let's rock it.
Okay, let's go here. From Sean Diebold, can David help us from his tribal perspective to understand the downfall of the main bodies of the Jaredites and Nephites and how it correlates to his tribes or others?
Well, you're talking about sounds. Sounds may be different, but history is the same. That generally the downfall of any civilization, even today, is forgetting that you're in a family and forgetting that you have a creator. Once those things happen, then you forget that that you're the same as the nature around you, that you have an obligation to it. And so you start destroying your family. You start having a disconnection from the creator where you act as if he doesn't exist. And then you start destroying every single thing around you. That's one perspective of a fall. Another perspective is you take things to letter of the law, and you believe that somebody, when they have to give their heart to the creator, it means tearing it out of their chest. And we had that happen as well. And so there's a little bit of both of that occurring. Even today in the modern society, we can see that there is a non-observance in mass. And we say, why are there so many problems? Why can't we get along? Well, you got to believe in something to get along. And if we can't even believe that there's an importance to being a mother and father, right? That there is a purpose under the creator, and that your children, that it's your responsibility to prepare them to live in the world so that their grandchildren can live here too. That this is the root of all problems. And so, yeah, that's what happened. And it doesn't matter. Pick a time, pick a name, it doesn't matter. It's always the same story. You forget the importance of being a human being and being a parent and being an equal part of creation. And you can't do that or it's easy to forget that if you don't acknowledge that there's a creator.
Okay, Trevor, next. Give him another one.
Okay, next is, I like this one. Eric Volrath says, the scroll that you presented shows the firmament. Can you tell us anything more about that? Does your tradition believe that Adam and Eve were resurrected at the time of the Lord? So let's talk about the firmament and the scroll.
The other things is always going to differ based upon the people talking to you. But so let's just focus on the first thing and not the other things which can bring division. Hypotheticals aren't going to help you live your life. You have a responsibility to follow certain requirements in your life, not sitting around and debating over what happened in a past when you weren't there. Okay? Go read the Torah. All right? So the grandfather of all books. The firmament for us in that scroll is to remind us that we were placed into a house. It was a creation, and all things are within it, are bound into a specific space. And that when we say that we are trying to learn to live with the creator, that he made a house for us to live in, and we are placed here to prepare it for him to live in it. And that's why the creator is not, he's sustaining everything, but he's in that eighth direction. You say 8 directions. Well, there's 6 directions. There's what's to the right of you, to the left of you, in front of you, behind you, above you, below you. There's also another direction that's your spirit inside you. And where did it come from? The source of all these things around you. And so when we do that firmament on scrolls and we have the lines coming down, it's to tell you you're in a great house to own. You better walk and you better tread lightly.
Okay.
That's the song that I'm going to sing later too, as a part of that.
Nice. Okay, this next one is from Sean Diebold as well. Can David help us understand the relationship between the Nephites, Mulekites, Lamanites?
Well, again, what you're talking about is a family. So in our history, and you're using terms that were translated for you to understand our story. We know that well, in your story, the Lamanites and Nephites were brothers. And they were under one father named Lehi, who had left the Jerusalem under the first destruction in a separate migration that went a separate direction and made his way into North America. We already know that the Muskogean peoples, that they've already traveled back, their history that they declare, no one even knows this, the Chickasaw, Choctaw, Seminole, Creek, the Alabama. This is a family that declares that they left over from the Middle East. They say Chief Phil Lane's in Southeast Asia right now, retracing their steps backwards, just to let you know. Chief Phil Lane. And they went across the Pacific. They even met with the Maori kings, and they're retracing their steps of where they came from. Their oral history, that's also written now on all their websites, says that they left the Middle East about 2,500 years ago, and they migrated across Asia and through the Southern Pacific into the western side of the Yucatan. I'm just going to tell you real history, and then you correlate it yourself. And there were people that were already there and in the western side of the Yucatan. So they walked north. There was nobody in the Texas area because the Denetah had not yet come down from around the circle that you call the North Pole, right? They just walked in a circle. They had the best access to all lands. And that's what you'd call the Navajo. They're Dene. They're also found at the Northwest Territories, and they meet every year. But when the Muskogean had walked north, there's no one in the place you call Texas. They came to the Mississippi River. That's an Ojibwe word, means great river. And crossing it was like equivalent to crossing the Red Sea. And when they crossed it, then they got to the place that the Creator had led them. Now, when they then worked north, they ran into another group that had been there longer. There was a group that had come there called the Algonquin after the tower fell. It's their beginning of their oral story in the lodge, that we tried to make a mountain and touch the Creator after the flood. And they followed the great deer, and the great deer led them back into this land. But just before, but then they also say that some people showed up in a boat that froze at the Lake of Two Mountains, where the Ottawa River meets the St. Lawrence River. And they were a very small group, very small. They were called the people of the star, and they carried a symbol. They had a symbol to show who they were. But they knew we were there. Somehow they knew we were there, because after 30 days, and I've told this story before, and I'll abridge it here. You can't rapid fire this one. What are you talking about? But that one of the elders actually pulled out of a bag as they were about to get killed. He pulled out some little antlers that he put on his head, and that told all the warriors, go get the Adik Dudam Ogima. And these are traders, these are travelers, because my clan are the peacemakers between nations. And so they brought him out and they made peace. And there was a boy with them who had been taught by these elders, and he was so intelligent that we talk about it. Jared Peltier talks about the little boy in some of his other things too. But this boy was taken through all the communities, and he brought the lodge. And we draw 2 sticks that are bound as one in all directions. It's the 8-pointed star. You see it everywhere. But when you draw it in the lodge, it's actually, I literally with an elder, I just colored in the triangles. I was like, what are you talking about here? This is 2 stars of David. Absolutely bizarre. So there's many migrations. There's also a migration that came from the north, the people that walk around the circle at the top, and they came down, and they came down through the west. There's also those that were already there in the south that went into the islands. So, instead of trying to decide for yourself, you should go talk to the people that are there about their history. And when you do, you'll see it's a pretty strange correlation. You're not too far off the mark.
Okay.
Perfect.
I've got the
Trevor,
next
question.
one. Yeah, I've got the next one, and it's tell us about the conference in September. both the gathering of the native tribes to share their records and also the Heartland Conference in Wisconsin this September?
Yeah, so there's some things that were put into motion after we met the rabbis last fall, and that's a gathering of all of our scrolls. So we had a 7th East-West Conference in May, and that was led by actually Chickasaw, and he's a member of two tribes, the Dakota, which are the Oceti-Sakowin, and you call them Sioux, but they're called Oceti-Sakowin, and the Chickasaw Muskogee, and he had led this conference with all these elders from across and hereditary chiefs from across North America and matriarchs, even the Azteca and Maya. And so all of the scrolls that exist that remain from the lodges are being taken to the Mi'kmaq Nation, where they will be reviewed on September 14th. And then on September 21st, we will be at the Fond du Lac Reservation in Wisconsin. And in this location, we will present our history and its congruence with the Torah.
Awesome. Okay, one question that I have about both.
And that the Torah is the book that everyone needs to go back and start reading.
All right, duly noted. We got Rabbi Yossi down there doing fist pumps in the air.
Yeah.
Okay, so this conference that's going on in September, there's been some confusion, but there's two different ones going on, right? And one of them, if I'm correct, there's 300 some odd tribes, and maybe the number is just a made up number, but there's hundreds of tribes that are coming to share their different stories, from birch bark to actual scrolls to rocks to plates, and for the first time there's kind of a knowledge share between the elders. Am I understanding that correct?
It's the Europeans that came over and told us we were separate groups when we were only 7 language families, that broke us into 600 communities when we were actually only 7 principal communities. That the Midu Lodge, the path of the heart, that was brought by the people of the star to us, the path of the 7 teachings and the way to view yourself in relation to your creator, that all of those lodges that are stretched across the 7 fires people when the 8 prophets came, that are stretched across the continent all the way to the state of Oregon, that the lodge keepers, the elders, those with the priesthood within our people, are taking all of their sacred items. Right now, there's Maya and Azteca grandmothers at the Mi'kmaq Nation building the big lodge for this gathering. All of these lodges, the keepers of them, are going to the Mi'kmaq Nation back where we received the 7 fires prophecy. Because we know that we're at the beginning of we know the darkness comes darkest right before the light. And we know that the sun's about to rise. And so everything's coming back together to say, okay, we're about to hit the 8th age. We were told to go west to safeguard these things. What's remaining? And then from that, how are we going to present it to the world to affirm that we are actually one world under one creator? And what I can tell you is that what I have personally seen, and what I will see at the end of this month, because I'll be a part of carrying a massive group from the Anishinaabe in Ontario, is that everything leads back to the grandfather of all books, which is the Torah. That's going to be the conclusion of this thing, is that you need to remember, even if you're LDS and you talk about the history of a guy who left Jerusalem, remember he sent his 4 sons back to get the 5 books of Moses. Don't forget that.
Okay. I've got this one is going to be a little controversial, and they didn't even put who this is from. So it says, what does David Midegah and his tribe people believe about polygamy or plural marriage? Is it true all of the time, or only when God commands it, or is it a false principle under every circumstance?
I believe what I read in the messages the Creator has given me, which is that for every man there is one woman, and that when the first man was made, he was made with one woman, and that our great responsibility is to find that one woman or that one man and to cling to them. I will not discuss anything further than that.
I love that. And Rabbi, are you raising your hand too?
I can respond to that. I can respond to that because what David said is quite true. And though we do find in the Torah that there were people that the forefathers, and we have examples from Jacob that he married 2 wives. And essentially, the concept is that really it's meant to be one wife for one husband. However, there are certain people in history that had spiritual representations that were meant to be reflected through various partners, for two partners. At the same time, even Jacob was not intending to marry 2 wives. He realized that was the will of God, because that was how he had to fulfill his promises to both. And that was a sisterly relationship. They cared for each other so much that they both wanted to cleave to that holy person. But although there is, in certain times, under certain circumstances, there were permissions for polygamy, that is not because that's essentially how it's meant to happen. It was meant because for practical purposes or for some type of spiritual purposes under certain circumstances. But nowadays, the Jewish law is that there is only one man for woman, and essentially that is there's always one whole soul. That's a partnership between man and woman, 2 parts of one soul. So there's not really a polygamy, although there's sometimes, as I mentioned, under certain circumstances, there's a spiritual representation that breaks up into 2 different partners.
The
Thank you, Rabbi.
Anishinaabe, they have a history of women being married to multiple men, but it's only after the man had died. Then they would get another husband.
Jer, is that where you were going to? I saw you wanting to raise your hand.
Yes. Just wanted to speak on the cultural aspect of that. In human culture, I studied anthropology in undergrad, and so and history as well. And so when you look at certain cultures, certain cultural conditions, material conditions, they can lead to socially constructed notions of marriage that tend towards either polygamy or polyandry, which is multiple husbands, multiple wives. And in Anishinaabe culture, there were instances, like David said, there were instances where there was polygamy, but oftentimes it was due to social circumstances. It was due to material circumstances.
Property.
Like a spouse died and there was a replacement. Taking on your brother's wife was an honorable thing to do to make sure that she had a home. And oftentimes chiefs, even leaders of the tribes, they would take in women who were widowed to take care of them. But the idea was that you were married and maybe you had like multiple wives as a chief. But the idea was that over time, as they healed, they would return to living a single life, as it were, until they found maybe another more suitable spouse. But the idea of polygamy in Indigenous culture, generally speaking, is a product of material circumstances.
Gotcha. Okay, Trevor, do we have another rapid fire for Chief Midegah?
Yep.
Good job there.
Here we are. Do you want to read that, Shane?
Yes. Eric Volrath says, is the Serpent Mound the actual location of the fall? I don't even know what the Serpent Mound is.
No, the Serpent Mound. We find this serpent also on one of our authority scrolls. That this is a teaching place where, again, we didn't have television. Okay, we didn't have the VCR, the DVD player, or the internet or Wi-Fi. We made physical things with the physical environment to gather people to, so that they could, with their eyes, understand a teaching that was going to be given. And that place was a teaching about consumption and about what the adversary who storms across this earth is trying to get us to do. And he's constantly seeking the consumption. And that's why you see it going up to that circle. That circle is a spirit. For us, the symbol of a spirit is a circle. And that serpent is winding through the earth to get to seek that spirit. He's trying to consume your spirit. And that's what live your life in a good way, so that the Creator can bless you with good things and protect you from the snakes that you can't see in the grass. And so we had this understand. Again, don't be surprised, because our story, when we teach it, is the same as is talking about the serpent in the garden, and he's seeking after your spirit. And so that's what that's about.
Okay.
It's not pinpointing a specific location of any fall or any. The entire earth fell. Okay, the entire earth is chained. The flaming sword is over the whole earth, and you point your little finger at that big thing in the sky, and all those little photons, they make everything how we see it right now.
Okay, so I want to be conscientious of everybody's time. We're at 2 hours. Are you okay to take some more questions? I know it's probably what, like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. where you're at, Chief
Listen,
Midegah?
we energy doesn't just come from food and water. Speaking the truth and sharing the truth of the Creator is its own energy. I don't know if others can stay on, and they're more than welcome to leave.
We have as many people on as we've ever had right now, so it's not that anybody is going anywhere else.
But
and Ward
I can
Radio,
go.
who had a live show, pushed their show back because of our show. So they're allowing to give us more time. So really cool. If you're okay, us rapid firing some more questions.
I'm okay. Jared, are you okay in Switzerland? I think you need to get some sleep, brother.
Yeah, I'm okay. Well, I'll see how this goes a little bit longer.
Okay. We got a super chat. We got a new one. Let's jump to it. What are your thoughts about raising Captain Moroni title of Liberty again in these days?
Well, you know what you're talking. We can't rely on somebody else to do for us what we're supposed to do for ourselves. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, every single one of us are called to be a willful participant in this change. Hey, listen, you got to be willing to be the only drop of water go in that direction. You got to be the grain of sand on the sand dune that looks back, see the winds coming, and you just start rolling to the water. Okay, we need everybody to be a captain. We need that in this context that you're talking. Every single one of us need to be a warrior and a champion for the Creator on this earth. You are a chief of creation. And if you don't believe it, go walk yourself in nature and listen to the humility of everything getting silent because they know you're the only one there that can destroy their entire generations. So who are you going to be? Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. You have to be a part of it. You have to be that guy or that gal.
Love it. Trevor,
Awesome.
fire.
Okay. Here is the next one. I like this one. Does Chief Midegah have any thoughts on when the great peacemaker will make his return?
Sean Crapo looking for an answer.
Yep.
Let's first get the entire world to agree on 7 simple things. We're going to get there.
All right. Here's another one. Is there any plan to publish the Birch Bark Scrolls? Has the time come for the Ojibwe to reveal their hidden records?
Yeah, absolutely. So there will be discussion by elders. I'm a young elder. I just happen to be walking in the circles. But they will make a discussion on how they want to present them, how they want to record. You know, when they gave me scrolls, they allowed me to write them down phonetically in our language and then in English as well. This is preparatory to see how it would be received. And I was sent on my little mission. Go share songs, Midegah. Go share stories. Let's see how they're received. And now here we are, right? It led us to the rabbis. It led us home. And then it's also leading us to the point where we're ready to bring more forward. I think they'll make an assessment of how they fit together and how they want to present it, not asking somebody else's permission, not asking for somebody else's interpretation. We know what they are. It's what made it sacred. They took everything from us. No one else is going to take our spiritual identity from us. But what you will find, and it should not be a surprise, is that we have more in common with the Torah than you could ever imagine.
Okay, we just got a super chat coming in from Mike Mitchell. He says, can you please talk about the grandfather teachings? You said this is supposed to unite people, 7 teachings. Yeah. Can you just go over that real quick?
So the rabbi just did it. We'll do it again.
Are the 7 teachings different than the 7 fires?
Yeah, the 7 fires is future ages. Hey, you're going to go through 7 periods of time to get to the 8th period. Hey, this is going to help you because when you're in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th period, it's hunker down, protect what you got, and just make sure you survive. When you hit the 6th period and you realize you're in that 6th period, you better talk, and you better talk loud. And when you hit the 7th period, now's the time to tell people to sit in the circle. Because the 8th age is coming, and this age will be an age of peace and kindness enveloping the entire earth, where we're not just showing kindness to those with us. We're showing our actions are showing kindness to those that are yet unborn. They're providing a way for them to live in a world of happiness. But it's also showing kindness to our ancestors that you haven't forgotten their prayers are answered in the way you live. And so the seven grandfather teachings, which were seven sacred teachings that are different. That's a way to live your life. Mino bimari ziwin, the good way of living your life. And this is how you are supposed to perceive reality. In every facet, every decision, when you go to pluck that blade of grass, and it's wisdom, respect, humility, honesty, truth, courage, and love. They are all bound together. You can't have one without the other. There's only one creator. That's wisdom. That the creator is in all things. So you need to give honor and restraint to all things. That's respect. That you need to have humility in how you deal with each other, because, hey, each of us are equally a sacred creation on a sacred journey with the creator. And we got a sacred spirit inside of us. And then we need to have honesty. Well, if that's true, then why are you intervening in my walk? Why are you trying to take what I've gained? You need to respect my property and I'll respect yours. And then we need to show truth. We need to look around and say that, well, everything around us has a spirit in it. Everything was created and is sustained moment to moment, which means it must be the will of the creator they exist. And so you need to speak truth, that you need to have restraint to those things as well. Take only what you need, right? And value animal life, right? They're with us on this journey. And then courage. For us, courage is to know that you are sacred. You're sacred. You are a sacred spirit in a vessel. You need to honor yourself. Okay, that you are walking with the creator. And then when we say show love, that's in all things that we do. Love is to know truth. All these things are true. So it enables me to walk as the creator would walk if he was here on this earth. And we'll find that when we walk as the creator would walk, we'll look next to us and the creator will be here with us.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. This is a good one. I think while we still have Jer and the rabbi on. So this is from Jennifer Schwartz, and she says, for those who wish to support him in the work he is doing, what would you have them do? Is there any organization we should work through? Is there any way we can contribute directly?
Absolutely. So there is going to be an organization that will be released publicly in the next week called Building Zion, that talks about assisting with, this is future, and I'll tell you right now. This is future, where we are going to build a language preservation institute, not just for the tribal nations of North, Central, and South America, but all those around the world. We're also going to have a cultural center, where we're EC Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii. We're going to have a global cultural center of humanity, and where we can have a family wellness institute the size of a university to give people the tools to breathe again. This is coming right now. What I need you to do is to assist us in our global outreach with the tribal indigenous nations in the world and our rabbinical partners in this journey, and to go to unitetheworld.org/donate and to do your part. We need your help, because we've done the long haul and we need to finish the job. And we're not going to finish the job without you. The doors are open. We got to get to the door. So I need you to go to unitetheworld.org/donate and to give all you can, when you can, as often as you can. In addition, we're trying to restart in the heart of Turtle Island as an example that all the other communities are watching, right? And so it's starting right there in Turtle Mountain, and it's starting with the very best of our youth, the very best of this generation, and that's Jer Peltier. And I need you to go to jerforchair.com, and we need you to donate and help him get across the finish line, because this is where it begins when we plant those teepee stands and welcome all our children home. This is where it starts, and it starts with men like him, who has made a commitment that the seven grandfather teachings are going to be at the centerpiece, as it was for our ancestors, in everything we do, and that's where we're restoring the creator into our government. So unitetheworld.org/donate. That's helping Midegah and the rabbis connect these global indigenous peoples together as one family, and we're doing that right now, and we need your help. And then jerforshare.com, as we start to reorganize our peoples in North America under proper principles, which is under the creator. And then I'll let you know in the future about the things we're going to be doing in Missouri.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Trevor, any other rapid fires?
From Marriott JM, how will the Lord take the gospel from the Gentiles and bring it to the house of Israel? Quoting 3rd Nephi. How will descendants of Lehi come to a knowledge of the fullness of the gospel?
Well, I think we have to go baby steps here, okay? And the first step is now acknowledging that we are one human family, and we have the ability to sit at the circle around the fire again together. And that's going to start with what we've all been given as our singular responsibility, the first baseline. Once we hit the first baseline, we'll talk about the next step. The first baseline is everybody following the 7 laws that were given to Adam and given to Noah for all descendants. We're going to start there. We all share these. Every indigenous group I've talked with around the world, they share. We're going to start there, which is we're going to restore the creator within our communities. Then we can go to the next step. But that's where we're starting. We have a starting place first. We have to sit in a circle together. We all can agree on those 7 things. That's the starting place. We're not going to fight over books at this time, because we know that there's a grandfather book called the Torah. And we know that whether you're on one side of the river and I'm on my side, it's watered by the same river. So let's focus first on the things we share in common. Then we'll talk about our histories with the Creator and how they build upon each other.
Okay.
Awesome.
Trevor.
Okay. This is from Carissa, and she's one of our favorites. She said, when we get a lot of questions about the lodges in the tribal lodge / temple that you say is similar to LDS, are members of the tribe able to attend regularly, regardless of their background or stage of life? What are the requirements?
I think Ms. Kozikwe talked about this earlier, that you have to go to an elder and you have to present yourself. It's the same in you want to go to a synagogue, you want to go go sit with the Jewish rabbis, and you want to go. It's the same whenever you find the Creator. He has the same system. You got to go talk to somebody who's an elder that understands, that can help guide you on your way. And for us, there's a purification phase. We have to get you to remember who you are before all this garbage and noise circled around you. Who are you amidst the noise? Are you what another sees, another feels, or are you the dream written within your heart whose light reveals warmth, love, and compassion? What seed are you, and what tree are you supposed to become? So there's an initiation phase that's about helping you strip away all the scars placed upon your heart as you walk through the purification stage to be able to get to a state where you could be taught. And it's line upon line and precept upon precept, because you don't want to drown somebody.
Awesome.
Hey, Trev, you got another one?
Yeah, let me put this one up here.
So Jude, just while you're waiting, Judy asks a question. Judy Cadero says, do animals go back to the Creator?
Everything comes from the Creator and everything returns to the Creator.
Perfect.
Nailed it. You nailed that one, David. That was rapid fire. You get an A+ on that one. Okay. What does the Lord have planned for you? Will you help save the Constitution and preserve the Lord's covenant with the house of Israel?
My first and foremost responsibility is to the Creator of all things seen and unseen. And so paper can be thrown into a fire and burn away and be replaced from generation to generation. I would certainly say that it would be nice if the United States citizens today cared about upholding their Constitution and what it says first. How are you going to save something that hasn't been followed in the first place since it's been enacted? So maybe start following the provisions that are in the first place, such as there are 975. You want to say save the Constitution. How about follow the Constitution? There are 975 tribes that are recognized by the United States Congress as nations, okay? And as communities that were recognized. Is Congress the federal government? Yeah, it's 3 branches co-equal, right? Right? That's Article 6 of the treaty. That's Article 6 of the Constitution. It's treaties. But how come only 574 are provided services by the executive branch? Oh, are they a monarchy? How about you focus professing the people to follow the Constitution, because you're not saving something that's never been followed.
Gotcha. Okay, this one's for the rabbi. Is Rabbi still on?
I will be for this last question. I will be.
This is from Hank Holiday. He says, I have a question for the rabbi. How much in the Torah about Moses is not in our King James version of the Bible?
Oral.
Well, there's 5 books that were given to Moses, as there was a many translations given later which don't have the exact the original actual wording. So that itself is a challenge. But beyond that, the 5 books of Moses clearly show that there cannot be 5 books alone. There has to be an oral teaching that comes as what we call exegesis. It's learned out in different methods, 13 basic methods that are learned out from those 5 books of Moses, which contain everything. Although there are later, there's the prophets, there's the writings, but from the 5 books of Moses come the what's called the oral teachings that were given down from father to student to son and teacher to student throughout generations from Moses. The ways that we learn what the text actually says. So there are many books written, the Talmud, many other books written about all these details, but those are the ones that actually define the laws much more clearly because they cannot be defined from the 5 books alone. That is impossible. The Jewish tradition recognizes that the 5 books alone cannot even clarify what they are saying without the oral tradition. So that's what I would say. And the oral tradition also defines the 7 laws of Noah. So we have to have that to clarify what the 5 books were saying. But it's not really 2 different things. It's one and the same. It's just one is extrapolated from the other.
And
Gotcha. Okay.
And the LDS know this. They have what's written in their books, and they have what's orally taught in their teaching lodge. And Jared knows in our lodges it's the same. There's what's written, and then there's what's taught orally by the Nokomises and the Mushims in the lodge as well. And you find more by showing up and hearing the oral than you ever would reading.
Gotcha.
I will add that I'm going to have to leave soon, but I want to just express one thing to you. My organization, Unite the World, it's so important for us to recognize as many questions we may have, we can open up our hearts and give to someone else. What I do here is I try to teach people to be kind, to be faithful, to give charity every day. We need to teach our kids that. We need to do ourselves something kind for someone else in our family, in our community. We need to make a kind world. Faith will follow kindness. And if we can all be kind to others without any preconditions, just try to bring God, a representation of God within ourselves as being kind. Give a little charity. We have what we call this an ark. It's an act of random kindness. It's a box. You put a coin box. You put in a coin each day and give it to someone you need that is in need. And we're teaching kids. We're teaching businesses, campus kids, senior homes do this. People should do this in their own house. Have a representation of kindness on the bookshelf and look at it each day. Start off your day with a little gratitude, a little meditation about thankfulness to the Creator, and do something kind for another person. So I hope we'll bring this to every community in the world, every person in the world, to have a coin box to give kindness to someone else. And that's what it's all about. And we'll be sharing that hopefully with you and your community one day. And I thank you very much for bringing me on. And I look forward to maybe having more time with you.
Can I sing
Rabbi
that song
Shulman,
before you go?
Before you
we do
go,
that,
there's one question.
The best
Yeah.
question.
So
Okay.
I don't know if you can see that on the screen.
I see
It
it.
says, Rabbi, obedience to God is paramount. What is your views of the red heifers in Jerusalem?
So there's 10 red heifers throughout history. 9 were done already. They were to sprinkle on to bring purity to those who had kind of a dead body and would want to come to visit the temple in Jerusalem. The 10th one has not yet been brought, and whenever there is one that occurs, which is very unusual because they can't have any black or white hairs, be purely red. It's a sign that there is an opportunity for a better world to happen, for the Messiah to come and to have a better world. And periodically throughout the time, these red heifers are happening, and they're coming to when the right time is going to happen, one will be used to sprinkle the ashes upon those in purification. When that will happen, and when the peacemaker will come, I think as David said before, it's not going to be a magical moment that that all of a sudden happens without our efforts. We didn't go through thousands of years of pain and suffering for this all to magically happen. Why do we need that? It's actually the time for the future redemption, the future time of all peace. It's got to be created by us. And that when we do that between ourselves, that's when there will be a messianic world. That's when there'll be a redemption, because we've brought that through all of our lessons that we've learned. And that will be when the head bred heifer will be brought. So all these prophecies that will happen need to happen through our actions today, through us creating a temple in our hearts. And then by that way, creating a temple for the world.
So I
Awesome.
want to sing a song before he leaves. And it would be my answer to that question, as I said, David's thoughts, that we dwell in a great creation from our Creator. And so whatever comes to us, accept it. It's for your good. Call the Creator into your life. Live the Creator in your life. So I'm going to share this song and for my dear friend and my brother, Rabbi Yossi Shulman, and for his father, who I know who's in Jerusalem and who has my prayers for his family and their safety, and that we can all sit at the table again of the human family as one family. Aya gichidawe bushkegin. Aya gichidawe bushkegin. Yahweh, Yahweh, Yah. Aya gichidawe bushkegin. Yahweh, Yahweh, Yah. Miigwech.
Amazing. Okay. We're wrapping things up. I can't think of a better way to end than on this song. I just a shout out to all of you who have participated in this live. We tried to get to as many questions as we could. We appreciate all of those that have been respectful and kind and loving and just love what is being taught from a variety of different people and different cultures. And I think at the end of the day, we find that we have way more in common than we don't. And maybe we should focus on what it is we have in common and leave the things that we don't, leave them on the shelf and focus on the things that we do have in common. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved here. Sherry Cardinal, Chief Grandmother, Jody Taylor, Jer for Chair, Rabbi Shulman, and of course, our own star, Chief David Taylor, Chief David Midegah. Thank you all for tuning into Zion Media. Listen, if you haven't, like and subscribe, share this, share these teachings. Let's get the word out. I know many of us, especially LDS, we have received blessings that have called us to gather Israel. And I would ask you to return to your patriarchal blessing and ask yourself the question, what am I doing to gather Israel? And if it's simply by going and helping out, by helping the organization that, what is it again, Chief Midegah, Unite?
UniteTheWorld.org/donate.
So UniteTheWorld.org/donate. This is one way that all of you that have been in your patriarchal blessing saying, how can I help? Well, that's one way. And then the other way is going to be, how do we come together? We can donate money, and that's a great thing. But an even better thing is, how do we fellowship together? How do we come together? And how do we learn from each other and sit down at that human family again? So for myself, I'm Shane Baldwin. Trevor, do you got any final thoughts? Oh, he's on mute. He said no. But thank you again for tuning in. Listen, we got many other things coming at you and to you. We're dropping 100 videos in 100 days. Our channel's been around for 40 days, and I think we've dropped 70 videos, so we're way ahead of schedule. But thank you all for tuning in. And listen, if you're tuning in right now, jump over to Word Radio. They got a live going on here in 15 minutes, and we want to support other channels. I love Word Radio. I've been on their program. It's amazing. They do amazing things, so go and support them as well. To all, have a good night. And as Chief Midegah says, Miigwech.